morning, guys. This is part 2. This is Mia. I couldn't shut my mouth. I meant to say a couple things. Well, it's kind of a pearl I have to put at the end of the video in case people don't watch it to the end. That's like your prize for watching it. It embarrasses me to be speaking about things so personal, even if it's not personal to me, but I feel like it's a personal or a secret, I guess, in society. I'm not familiar with any other nationality. Like, I'm not familiar with living anywhere but the United States of America. I want to say, first of all, I think her name is Gabby. I'm sorry, I forget the name. I'll come back. I watched for 48 hours last night when I fell asleep. I don't know what happened. My phone was on the floor as a mess, but my earbuds fell out. I'm just drinking like liquid amino. What was it? 2023 when we saw that guy's last name was Laundry. Some people pronounce it differently. What a nightmare. So there's two things with this. So rest in peace to this young lady that's somebody's friend, somebody's daughter, somebody's, I don't know, student, whatever. So YouTuber, I don't know if she was on YouTube or Instagram, but social media presence, goes on in a van with her partner, ends at the Teton or however, ends up in Wyoming at the national park place, whatever it's called, and disappears. Partner comes back. I'm gonna rewatch it because I thought when she had her video saying, oh, I wonder. Oh, that was a different woman. Because most of the women the same age had blonde hair. Alright, I think I got it. So, spoiler, this is 48 hours. There was someone that said we picked somebody up. They said that their partner was doing the influencing, take me back to my van, and then says, never mind. He says, I'll pay $200, which the woman said, that's to take me 10 minutes. And they said, never mind, and drop me off here. This whole narration, I thought it was the young lady who was missing that was recounting the events that led up to her own disappearance, but it was another young lady. The light bulb came on. I'm sorry, they looked alike. They look really alike. And because it was a TikTok video, I seriously thought that it was the same. I was like, wait, if she was potentially harmed and killed by this laundry guy, then who was her boyfriend? So I spent the whole rest of the video wondering who was her boyfriend. That stuff just gave me a headache. By the way, it's kind of like glutamates in it, which I don't think I should. I keep trying to cut this out of my diet. I'm going to make some changes here. A moment of silence for this lost woman, and then I'll do another moment of silence for others. There's controversy in who gets looked for. Unfortunately, somebody's already dead. They're dead, but sometimes they're not. And they can get them before they're dead if they're left to die. Left out in the elements. There's a lot of people, indigenous people, people of color, gays, even children, that don't get publicity. Adult men that don't get publicity for their missing, disappearance. It's very frequent that if some blonde hair, blue eyes, or young, giggly person, young, white, giggly woman gets some attention, but the police, if you watch This Is Monsters, the police will frequently say, oh, they're a young adult, oh, they're teenagers, don't run away, oh, they're adult, they're not missing because they have their own life, they don't need to report to you, the parent, the neighbor, the partner, whoever, the sister. So on This Is Monsters, some of the older ones that I watched a year or so ago, they're saying, hey, when the police tell you that, is it written somewhere in that jurisdiction that you can't put out, hey, such and such is missing. They were supposed to report back last night, and they didn't come back. They didn't call. They didn't, GPS trackers off on their phone, all this stuff. So I've seen some unfortunate ones, where that happened here. Someone turned up missing. There was a car accident. The dude was last seen walking to a field. The police did some kind of investigation, but they organized a search party on Facebook, is where I saw it, through my local group. I joined this guy's search party group, and the people walked. They told people where to park. Like, basically, all the family members, I think one even just had a baby or something, so they all traveled up from all over the country, because the police, they did some sort of search, but not a lot, and they had people divide up the areas, told them where to park, because there was road parking, and it was out in the country, and they walked these fields, and they found the body. So, was he gone for what? I don't know how long he was gone. 2 weeks? A week? A month? A few days? What had happened? When you're waiting on the police, this happened to me. I've been a victim of crime a lot of times. When you're waiting on the police, I've been told that I'm a suspect of a crime that I called the police about. And the police made a lot of errors. I'm going to tell you, that's a whole other story. What if the police went out and organized the same kind of search party the day that he went missing, after the accident? Would they have found him alive and able to be revived, or able to be nursed back to health? That is what irks me, is that first 24 hours is crucial for kidnappings, for deaths, for somebody flipping over the edge of a cliff on their vehicle, or somebody getting lost up on, I don't know, Mount Hood by themselves, or whatever, whatever the case may be. So, after 3, 4, 5 days, 3, 4, 5 weeks, then it becomes a body retrieval, and that's sad, because unless they were, literally murdered on the spot and left to die, or left to finish dying, I mean, someone would have had to get them and start their CPR, rescue breathing and everything right away, but case by case, right? The sooner the better that somebody finds this victim. So a moment of silence for the people that aren't showcased in the news. This video did recognize, hey, why do you think, they had a psychologist somewhere, so why do you think that she was looked for? And people in the comments are like, because she's a cute white girl, because people are jealous, she's dead, and people are jealous of her. They're not jealous. Our hearts break for the family. We can't imagine that happening to our own self, to our own children, our own neighbors, or to our loved ones, to our nieces and nephews. We can't imagine it. But we want to be treated fairly, and we go out and post signs and Facebook post up. And like I said, this guy was an older white man that was found by the public, or I think he was found by one of the children, unfortunately, because they weren't out there long. They said, don't come out, we're done, go home. We can't say anything at this point. No more news, just we're done. And it took about an hour or so to find this fella. I think maybe 45 minutes, or at least less than 2 hours, whatever it was. This one locally, it broke my heart. I said, what if they had done that the day that he was lost? And maybe they did. But how far can you walk when you abandon your car on the side of the road after an accident? How far can you walk? How fast can you get to where you're going? When you have a perimeter, spread out into that perimeter. If it's an hour, fine. What's that, 4 miles? It's a moment of silence for these other people that are missing. I also started a local cold case, which I haven't got very far. I shouldn't laugh. That's what I hate. I laugh because I'm embarrassed and I want to do moment of silence, but there's a white guy that was seen at a bar with his friends, went out to the car to get something, and never seen again. And so I'm trying to get associated. There's a black woman, I think, black women's group that somebody started a nonprofit. What I want to do is detective work as a doctor and as a non-detective detective, because I've solved my own crimes. When people did crimes against me, I can tell you everyone who did it figured out how they done it. I've done a stakeout and watched crime. I set someone up with the crime they're already doing, repeat crime, stealing stuff from my locker. I went out to the locker. I figured out what time it happened. I went out to the bathroom and peeked through the door. Like, I figured out so many crimes when I was at school towards me in college, and not once was there any justice served. And the worst time that it happened was somebody said they think I was lying and that they were going to put me in jail for stealing $200 out of my account that I was saving to go on a ski trip in Colorado with my friends from Michigan State. So I know how it feels to be treated differently, to be blamed, to be ignored. The investigation took place like 3 months after the crime, not because I reported it. They ignored me. My parents reported it after they saw me moping around. Okay, what's wrong? There's something really wrong with you. I was supposed to be on a ski trip. So I'm surprised they were that. I mean, we're always sitting together. I tell people it's a toxic family, but we're always sitting together in a family room during the waking hours. Unless someone had to go outside to do some yard work, which is always fun when you got like 2, 3, 4, 5 acres. Moment of silence, please. There's people in this video, 48 hours comments, that said a lot of people left their abusers after they watched the story unfold. And there's a lot of criticism towards which police department. It seems like I fell asleep during this. One of the police departments had been called by a bystander. I believe they saw an abusive situation and the police didn't know what to do. They didn't arrest anybody. They didn't take the woman into shelter, and someone said, yeah, the woman was saying, I'm sorry. Like, that's what happens. You're abused, you take the blame. And I did flee an abusive situation where I thought I was going to die, and that my kids were going to die. And you become, like I said, the victim ends up being called the bad guy. They had a rule enacted right after I took my kids out that if your kids are exposed, you're going to be, if you're abused by your abuser, your kids are exposed, you're going to be in trouble. The victim, the one that's getting beat, is going to be in trouble, and they're going to take your kids and take away child protective services into foster care. That went into law right after So if you got abused once, and you call the police and you leave your abuser and you never come back and you take your kids, you could literally get in trouble for that and lose custody of your kids. Even though you're being proactive. You didn't get in a relationship saying, hey, I'm going to be beaten. Oh, I'm going to bring kids into this. Like, I'm the one that thought everything was okay. And then the guy Jekyll and Hyde on me and turned into a monster. And I did everything from pretty much the first 24, 72 hours after I got married. I was about to he turned into a monster and I was trying to leave. We were homeless. Moms were dead. Our dads were ignoring us and calling us names. And really abusive, not helpful, not supportive. And we had nowhere to go. Not one family member, both of our moms had just died, and not one family member offered any kind of, hey, give us a phone call if you need to talk. And not one person offered us. My brother offered something before the funerals, but I hadn't even heard from my brother for who knows how long after that. So basically it was be alone outside in someone else's ranch land or some park in Arizona. 2-week maximum stay, out in the desert with no food, no water, no shelter, or stick with someone who knew how to be homeless. And I stuck with someone who knew how to be homeless because when I got lost in San Antonio out in some desert ranch, and I had I wanted my dog to leave with me in Arkansas, and she refused to. I said, if my dog won't go off with me and say, oh, heck no, I'm going back to camp. Dogs aren't not stupid. They're like pack animals. They're like, stay with the pack, man. Like, I don't know if that's what she thought, but when I saw my dog not going, it's like when a child or an animal either follows you or doesn't follow you, I listen. I'm like receptive. Anyways, it's pretty much tea time now. The water is probably too hot. I just tied this in a knot again. I don't know why. I want to make bracelets all day and sit by the beach and listen to the waves go by and feel the sand beneath my feet. That's what I want to do this week. for like a month. I want to put on some good sunscreen, but get some good vitamin D. I want to go to a raw juice bar and get a slushie made out of watermelon with lemon juice. That's what I want right now. I'm about to. I got some kind of Instacart thing. Should I use it and get, this thing I have appointments and stuff. I can't really use the Instacart. Anyways, I'm going to get my tea. I'm going to put this package together, which I'm dreading. It's almost 9, or it's almost 8:30. This is Monster's Head. When you take space, your space, own space, LIFE. He was getting flagged from YouTube for having a hotline number to call, talk line, domestic violence line, gay crisis or LGBTQ crisis line. He was getting flagged really bad and had to put that into like kind of like matrix type writing on his page. I feel sad about that because it's a public service announcement, guys. This is a pearl. I got 2 pearls for you guys. Which is, I'm alive right now. I thought I was going to die at the hands of my ex-husband. A couple times at least. I thought I was going to die at the hands of my mother. She was abusive as well. I have gotten 0 support in domestic violence from a counselor. I think that every counselor that I've seen absolutely has no idea what it's like to be abused, or they look at my skin color and don't see me as valuable enough to work with their methodical book classroom experience teaches you. I fled because I was in I promised the person who cheated with my abusive husband while I was at my grandma's funeral. I started cheating with, I think it happened before I went to my grandma's funeral. And then they were trying to get something together, and my ex-husband was on the phone with me and said, oh, go have a good time, go to a bar and hang out. Like, he was trying to hint to go hang out with another man because he had 2 women at my house with my kids in the house, the apartment that I was paying for, me and my dad were paying for. And he was just, I mean, what he should have been doing is playing, Connect 4 with the kids and watching, Christmas movies and ordering pizza and wings, you know what I mean? Like, you don't take our kids and set them aside and bring a bunch of women in my house to my bed that I paid for, that my dad paid for. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's sickening, guys. Makes me want to vomit, but it was an abusive relationship in more ways than one. I didn't know that it was like this. I didn't see the red flags. I saw like 1 red flag after I got married. When you 20/20 hindsight. I went to this church because I promised this person before I found out she was cheating on my husband. She had her own husband. I told her, don't touch my husband. You think he's cute? Don't touch him. She did. And I left. And I promised to go to church with her one day for potluck. And I went. I didn't break any more promises after that because our fish kept dying when I broke promises to God. So I went to that church for almost 10 years. She went a couple times. And the stupid pastor kept asking me about this lady. Oh, how's she doing? I said, you just don't get it. Like, these people were so flaky. And we were the poorest, most outcast people in that place. So they probably think, birds of a feather flock together. Oh, heck no. I'm going back to med school, bro. Get me out of this pit of HE double hockey sticks. So I asked God for help, and I was given a meeting schedule in 2004, and I was given a lot of meeting schedules, and my neighbor Heidi took me to my first NA meeting on a Friday night, Heart and Soul Candlelight meeting over in Northeast Portland. I believe it's near 15th and Fremont. Went to that meeting every Friday. They had a child care room downstairs. The meeting was upstairs. It was dark. It was huge. A lot of people my age. There's people between 20s and 40s versus when I go to AA on the southwest side, where people are average of age 75, age 68 to average age. But I went to the meeting and kept going back by myself with my kids because I stopped taking my kids. It's got me upset. Stopped leaving my kids at home for certain meetings. There's a bunch of meetings of childcare during NA, and I think I'm going to share a little bit about this different types of meetings I've gone to. And I need to go to my Zoom meeting, by the way. I met a sponsor. I met a person that became my sponsor, but not for long. There's people that are hard to get a hold of, or they're flaky, or there's just craziness. I didn't want to be sucked back down. I wanted to go up in my life and not be drawn into more craziness. Those people aren't well. They have more clean time than me at the time, but they're not necessarily well, they're not necessarily safe, and they're not necessarily available for more reasons than one. Or like this recent person I had a sponsor just kind of blew me off, like just really sickening. I feel like so little. But I told her she invited me over and I told her my story, and she was, oh my god, you need to call the Women's Crisis Line. It's not called that anymore. I think it's called the Crisis Line. But Portland Crisis Line or something. I still had that number in my phone. I swear I tried to call it once. It's not that. It doesn't work anymore. I ended up, or once, and that wasn't in 2004, by the way. And I ended up on the phone. At the time, I had no phone. I had no cell phone. My ex-husband turned off my house phone. He had one cell phone that he kept. And if I wanted to make any phone calls to my sponsor, to the Women's Crisis, to anyone, I had to say, I need to borrow your phone for a minute. I gotta go in the bedroom and make a phone call. And that was a huge amount of sneaking around. My neighbor found out about it and took me to the park and had me use my voice for the first time. She was a white woman. As a black woman, you're told to shut up all the time. And you're not listened to. You're not taken seriously when you're in school. People tell you you're in trouble for making noise. You Latinos, if they have darker skin, you're going to be in trouble. You're the ones going to suspension because you laughed once during class, or you dropped your pencil, or you said something to your friend, or you had a perfume spill. I'm the one in detention in trouble. But they tell you to be quiet. I was a very excellent student, but I was treated very poorly, so my grades started slipping, the more poor treatment. But she gave me a voice for the first time, told me to come to the playground and yell. I don't know if she let me say no, or all these different things. And I didn't know until years later that a lot of black women were told to shut up because someone said, raise your hand if you could be in a classroom with all white students and white girls and everybody's laughing or everybody's talking and you're the only one that's in trouble. Raise your hand. I'm like, oh my god. I thought it was me. I thought I was the problem. That was racism. Those teachers didn't get together on the phone and say, why don't we pick on it? It's it's ingrained in them. And all my teachers were white, except for Miss Spencer in 2nd grade, by the way. I followed the steps of these people and I didn't want to. I ignored some of this. Go make a phone call. Do this. Get into the shelter system. You got a call. They told you to call on Thursday, whatever day, by 9 a.m. First come, first serve. Sponsor called me. Did you call? I said no. You didn't call. I tried to sleep in. Tried to ignore the phone. By that time, my neighbor said you need to tell your ex-husband or your husband that you can't be sitting in the house all day. And he started abandoning us on the weekend, taking my car. So I was trapped in that apartment. All my neighbors, except for 2 houses, spoke English or didn't speak English. They all spoke Cambodian. We went out, and she said, "You need a phone. You can't be sitting here with 2 kids under age 3 or whatever, under age 4 under, without a phone. What if there's an emergency? What if you need to call 911? Blah 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 blah." I had no phone, no car, no nothing, no money. I used to hide my money from my job, and he used to always say, "I need money." Oh, I can't pay rent. Oh, I spent all on drugs and strippers and prostitutes. Who knows what he spent it on? But I'm like, Spent my money, spent my kids' tax return that you made money off of, you wrecked my car, and you spent money on yourself. Thousands of dollars. You didn't get my car fixed. You guys, I didn't stay there because I wanted to stay there. I stayed there because I was stuck. I didn't have anywhere to go. My son didn't even have shoes. I had a pair of Doc Martens that I got in the 90s and a pair of sandals. That's all I had when I was homeless. That's pretty much all I had. I had no underwear, no bras. I had used clothes and some used underwear that he would take from his truck. He worked for a thrift store. He used to steal women's underwear and bring it home. So all I had was this stuff that smelled like other women that he said was gifted to him, put right on top, freshly washed. Or not, I don't know. None of my business, because he did some sick things. It's another story. I gotta sleep with my kids to keep this guy away and his friends away until God led me to that path. But it wasn't as easy as just up and go. You can't just, I went to DHS months before. They told me to stay at this other lady's house. That my friend said, oh, there's a friend we have, we'll ask her. And that lady had her own issues, and she had some weirdos living in her house. And I said, at least I know my ex, and at least I have a key. And at least I don't know what's going on with the dude that lives in the basement. I found out years later there was a dude that lived in the freaking shed. And I used to go out in the backyard, scantily dressed, with kids probably running around in diapers, because it was a nice fenced-in backyard. I didn't think that anybody could see us while we're hanging out laundry. And then I was appalled when she said that there was some crazy guy living in her shed and that she had to go out there and clean it because there's a rat problem. So I left that place, I left because I had a weird vibe, and she had a big party one day, and I said, I don't know who's here. I don't know if there's... She was a very clean-cut white person who had a professional job. This is Portland, mind you guys. Very professional, owned her own house. Very clean-cut. Older, like middle-aged woman with long hair. You would never think that this craziness was going on. It's not just her. It was her and the people that she associated with. But I could not be there with my kids and find out something cuckoo's going on, and I'm going to end up, in worse trouble than me just going to NA meetings in church on Sunday. You know what I'm trying to say? I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for my life from my ex-husband. But I was also afraid of, when you're dead, you're dead. I was afraid of being thrown in jail and having my kids taken from me. And that was the worst fear than being killed. And I knew I needed to get out. So God led me to getting out because of the phone calls I made with the phones that I had to borrow or get help with. And they don't give it's not like you have domestic violence situations. It's not like everybody just gets a phone. There's places that say donate your old phones to domestic violence. You're on your own, bro. It is really scary. You're wandering around, you're riding the bus, you're going into your own neighborhood. You don't know. Men and women, your abusers can retaliate. I've read books on a lot of retaliation, and if they say, if I can't have you, no one can, and same with the kids. There's too many stories of abuse where the person's abusive, they're not all right in the head. It doesn't matter what they look like, what their race is, what their socioeconomic status, the fact that they don't have a record. Let me pause you guys. Hold on. I want to post this video right now so that I can put trigger warning on it, because here's the pearl. This week I talked about beauty. I didn't talk about Beauty from Ashes, but Joyce Meyer had that book, Beauty from Ashes. Hold on. Put my slippers on. Rising from the fire, the phoenix. I had a friend from high school, or from my old hometown, through school. I think she left, before we finished high school. I think she was living near Phoenix or something like that. Some cowboy living on a ranch. I'm like, how did she have this like fairy tale? She was really pretty in the standard of what pretty is, but she put up a bunch of stuff about like kind of anti-gay with a rainbow flag through the church. And I went to a conservative Christian church before, and I understand what they get brainwashed, but I found it offensive. Like, it's one thing if you're sitting in your church and you listen to someone say something. It's another thing to see what's really in your heart. And I know a lot of people will say the rainbow is a symbol from God. We're not going to drown you again. We're going to burn you. Next time, I'm going to destroy you for being jerks, humans. It's going to be in a fire, not in a flood. That's, if you read the Bible, that's what the rainbow symbolizes, is the sinful nature of people. Like, in my mind, it's hatred. These murders, these abuses, these not loving your neighbors, these looking at me because I fit a mold, I'm blonde, I have blue eyes, I have a professional, like my friend, I have a professional career, I'm married to a blonde hair, blue eye cowboy, have a whole bunch of horses, dogs, kids, grandkids, live in this huge house that's spotless in her Facebook pictures, and going to work and getting all these awards for being the best professional in the health field and all this stuff. But it's like, if you have somebody there who's gay, who's a patient, what are you going to do? Be like, you're a sinner, you're going to, I feel like what someone does behind their bedroom doors is between them and their partner. And if they have a higher powers between them and their higher power, like, I understand that I could be wrong. But for me, I'm taking a chance to love my neighbor. And if I don't love myself, then I learn to love myself and love my neighbor, because that person is a human and an individual. And their path is not the same as my path, unless it is. But that's another story. Their partner is their partner. Their orientation, their sexual orientation, their gender identity, that's between them and themselves and their own spiritual path. Because I have my own situation. People will say, you live with a person because you're bad, you're black, he's white, you're not married, you're this, you're that, you're divorced, They condemned me at church for saying that it's sinful and that I was going to go to H-E-double hockey sticks because I divorced my husband. And I wasn't even divorced yet, but the Bible clearly says if your partner is committing adultery that you're allowed to divorce. And I don't even read into all that, because the men in the Bible had multiple wives, multiple partners, getting people pregnant, having prostitutes. If you read that stuff cover to cover, you will see that the men were free to spread their so-called seed across a whole bunch of women, and men for that matter. But as soon as a woman gets divorced and tries to remarry, oh my God, Jesus is there pointing the finger, God's holding back the lightning bolt, they're trying to stone her to death, the other woman that was caught in so-called adultery. But if you read it cover to cover, between all that black and white pages, black ink, if you were that strict and you copy a meme or your pastor said something, go look it up and see what it really says about compassion, love, and peace. And look at, when you're a woman, look at the gender roles and look at the who handwrote that. Men. And what you read in Judges about Deborah, which the prophet told me about, was they sent a man to go kill somebody, which is murder, which is against the 10 Commandments or whatever, and you ended up, being scared, or this guy ended up being scared, and the woman was going to accompany him, Deborah, I think, and I thought there's another woman I don't remember her name, I don't think it's the same lady, and they said, and she has a meeting with this dude, says, dude, do you realize that if I come with you, you're not going to get the glory of the defeat, of the victory, and defeat of our enemy, because I'm with you. that's up to you. And the guy was trembling with fear, and he's like, yes, please come with me. I'm up for this. So they went and they defeated the enemy, but there's a story where there's a woman who knew that there was a so-called enemy, and this guy comes into her tent/house, I don't know, glamping house, and she knows that this is the one who needs, there's another trigger warning because I'm talking about someone else, and they, this guy, because of her tricking him, which a lot of women in the Bible will trick. Our old pastor said he wanted to beat the crap out of Eve when he gets to heaven because of what she did in the Garden of Eden. That right there, I should have walked out of that church and never, ever gone back. That's sexist. It's two people. If that story was written and it's real, two people did it, a man and a woman. And if the woman was around getting into temptation, then why maybe she was having her period and she couldn't handle it. I guess they didn't have painful periods yet. But why wasn't her husband like enjoying the company of his wife? What was he off doing that he couldn't be like? I feel like if men want something, they go to the partner. If a woman wants something, it's like a lot of times you end up on your own. You got 10 things that you only choose one. Let's choose one. But I feel like men want something, 10 things from you. You give 12. Then you fill in the gaps. Like that's just my experience. And so, but I mean, hindsight 2020, I should have walked out because that's violent. You don't go to heaven to go beat your great grandmother. If you do believe that story like they supposedly did, I had a counselor tell me when I did get out into the shelter system, I had to go through DHS to do everything they said, so I ended up in outpatient treatment, which I'm grateful for. The counselor told me, your church telling you people like you can't go to medical school and people like you can't do anything and that your kids are messed up. This lady was an atheist. She was an older woman, like 60-something-year-old white woman. She goes, I can't believe you're attending a church where the pastors talk about God and talk about miracles and talk about becoming a new creature in Christ, but they're telling you you can't do anything because of your past, because of who you are as a person. Like, they don't even believe what they preach. She goes, I can't understand why you still attend that church. This was like in 2004, 2005. She goes, I can't understand why with the way they're talking. She just couldn't contemplate. Like, so obvious. They're not being sneaky. They're telling the truth about how they don't believe. But these pastors at the old church had white privilege, and they took full advantage of that generational wealth to say, look, God blessed me with this. Like, no, you didn't. Your great-grandparents were super racist. They probably held enslaved persons and made money off them. Like a whole bunch of people that have generational wealth and a whole bunch of family property and all the stuff that my family may not have had or have had stolen from us. So the pearl of this, besides me getting away, I went to a women's studies class. I was late for we had after the final exam or after the papers, we did the stuff in the classroom at Portland State University. These were two residents or teaching assistants that taught the class, which was the first time I had teaching assistants besides a lab, a chemistry lab or something. The first time I had an actual lecture class, group class, where there was TAs teaching and no professor, no adjunct professor or anything, no faculty. And I was coming in a conversation at a coffee shop. We were meeting to get our papers and have a little coffee, tea, whatever. And all these women, including the teachers, like, yeah, I can't believe why abusive women don't leave. They're so ignorant and they, playing the victim and this and that. I said, listen, it's like, you can read about this easy in 2 minutes. You get things taken away from you. You get taken away from your family. You get your phone shut off. You don't have shoes, you don't have clothes, you don't have underwear, any money they can put you on drugs, get you on drugs. People get put on heroin. People get kidnapped, put in a sex trade, put on heroin, fentanyl. And then you're desperate to stay alive. And leaving this capture is definitely on your mind, but you don't even have the energy to get up and barely go use the restroom. And you're dirty, and you're talked down to, and when you're being drugged, you're being told how you'll never amount to anything. That's how my dad would talk to me. My dad was abusive too, and they control your bank accounts, they control your cards, and they take away your phone. They don't give you, I lived with my dad and my ex-husband and my kids for a while. I wasn't able to get on the internet. My dad used the internet in the day, he had like a DSL wire, and he gave my ex-husband the whole night internet. So you can use that night. But by then I was nursing and pregnant and having kids. I had to go to sleep so I can get up and deal with the kids. And so I couldn't ever use the internet. I remember using the internet like twice to look at eBay because I was trying to get out to Oregon from the Midwest. I remember like I wasn't able to check my emails. I wasn't able to look for work. I wasn't able to look for resources. I wasn't able to know that there was available help like WIC and different things for impoverished people. I was severely impoverished. I needed a shelter. I needed to get away from them. My life could be a different story if that happened. It may, like, I can't go back in time as far as I know. Like, technology doesn't allow me. But I hate when people act this way and they blame women. And there are women like my supposed friend that cheated with my ex. It took two to tango, but it destroyed my entire. He was already destroying our marriage. I was trying to get counseling, mediation. It destroyed a family. It put me and the kids in homelessness and in housing for severe debt and poverty that I'm still in because somebody was abusive and somebody else was a homewrecker. I'm happy that I'm away from that, but I'm telling you, it's not been easy. Here's the pearl talking about the generational wealth. There's a lot of extremely wealthy people that can pay top dollar to send their kids to school and to buy whatever car or properties they want, period. Whatever they want. A lot of these people that don't have to work. How do they get money? How do they keep... You have a bowl of gold coins and you spend it on this and that. That bowl is going to be empty. The Bible talks about this too. I don't mean to be preaching, but there's words in there that you hear financial people that went and got a PhD in finances and they're going to say the same thing. It's like it's already been written. Whether I like the perspective that it's coming from or the bias. They talk about the analogy, I think it was Jesus that told the three dudes, go take this money. I'm going to give you, I don't think it was Jesus, I think it was like a king. I'm going to give you this amount of money, this amount of money, this amount of money. Guy number one, he goes and buries it in the sand. Boom. Guy number two, he goes and buries some of it and he goes and invests some of it. The guy says he's going to be back in a few weeks. Guy number three, he goes and invests all of it. Dude comes back, the prince or whoever, and he comes to say, okay, what's up with your money, guys? Guy number one digs up his money, brings the ball, says, hey, you gave me 100 gold coins, I got 100 gold coins. He pretty much got plucked off. Okay, that's not good enough, you idiot. Guy number two says, I buried some of my money, but I went and invested, so you started with 100, now I have 200 coins. You say, okay, you come stand over here with me. Guy number three, and this is not verbatim, he grabs the money that he invested, all these high-risk investments, because it had to be fast. It wasn't years-long CDs and all this stuff. And remember this Bible says he starts in 100 gold coins. He has like 5,000. I think there was actually 4 guys, but I haven't read the story in a long time. This prince or king or whoever is like, this guy's already plucked away, whatever, deal with your life. These other guys, they invested their money. This guy invested a little bit. I'm going to give you this much land that you can be the ruler of, or whatever the story is. A whole bunch of land, like a whole town. 2 towns, whatever. This guy who got a whole bunch of investment money back, he was given a lot because he was obedient and he took a risk and he made his money grow. And when I read the story, if I ever do, again, I will come back and tell you a little bit more, or at least where to find it. So this is something that's been around, depending on the translation, for who knows how long. I don't even know whether it's the Old Testament or New Testament. But people go to school for years, people nitpick, people day trade on their own, people do Robinhood and stuff, buy crypto. But it's hard. But think about people that can do what they want anytime, day or night, buy islands and buy yachts. And they didn't work. They're not counting on Social Security. They're not waiting for unemployment when they had to stay home during COVID. Maybe they get it. There's a lot of people out here that did get it. Oh, what did you make? Oh, I made money on dividends, but I still qualify for unemployment because I went and worked at the school where my grandson is for 3 days out of the week for 2 weeks. Like, I was eligible for $2,000 a month of unemployment. Like, I had people calling me telling me, like, I don't think my friend deserves it. Like, you don't get anything and you've been working all your life. This person is financially wealthy. They don't even need it and they're getting money. I was like, to each their own. So in my mind, these guys, which were men, got selected by this rich dude. B, they were given something that they could play with. They didn't have to come up with their own money, I don't think. C, they used someone else's money. They made it grow. They got rewarded. So they got something for being the demographic they are. They got handed something that I haven't got handed, that women didn't get handed, that black people didn't get handed. And then they were able to have an enormous change in their life that would affect their spouse, their kids, their grandchildren. They would all be connected to this property and to this cash that they had received because they were in the right place in the right time and they had a certain demographic that this guy said, hey, I'm going to trust you with something. So you think about that if you get looked down upon like me, when you're going to go into a place and they're going to say this isn't for people like you, or you're scared to go play golf, or you're scared to go buy a ranch or a lavender field. Because people, my 47 years say people like you can't, people like you don't. But someone else could be handed something on a silver platter and not have to lift a finger, go to the fanciest schools just so they can show off and be part of certain esteemed groups. But somebody that's pulling themselves out of the pit of HE hockey sticks because they were beaten down by their mom, left out to die by their dad, and beaten down by their ex, and having your friends go behind your back and steal from you and cheat and do all these lies, and then society doesn't like the way you speak because you don't sound black enough, etc., etc., etc. Peace, guys. This started as somebody got murdered. The guy confessed in a letter on some paper that he wrote. He himself. This is real, guys. Whether I'm that demographic, because I'm not, that could have been me because I know what I lived through, and that's why I didn't leave my kids alone. After I found out what was really going on with this guy and with these other people and the weird texts that I was getting from his friends about certain things, I was just like, I saw murders on the TV in Portland area, and I was like, not unconvinced that, like, they caught the people, but I was like, this could have been my partner. He's got some shady past that I didn't know about. Jekyll and Hyde happened, but he hid it from me until I walked across that wedding aisle in freaking Nevada. So if you guys got a gut feeling, just because you got a gut feeling and you know that you got into a trap, like a real bear trap, it's not easy to get out of the trap once you're in it. And you're going to take a chance like I did and not know any better until after you get married, you fall into the trap. So sometimes you can't say, oh, they shouldn't have married that guy. Hey, you might not even know. Like I didn't know. And if you grew up in an abusive family and there were red flags, you would recognize that confusingly. I meant to say this the other day. When I went to church late crying all the time because of my ex-husband, right before I left him, for the few months that I went to church before I left with my kids, the lady was standing outside and greeting, and she would wait till the stragglers come in, which was me. And I was crying, and I said, she told me, all the women in here are not being beaten. We're not being yelled at. We're not being abused. I was a college Bachelor of Science education graduate, going to school to be a doctor. Coming from this family, this military family, this abusive family, I thought that every woman was being beaten and abused by their husband. I thought that was what was normal. And this lady at church, Jan, told me, this is not normal, and this is not okay. And my heart dropped because I was trained. My mom used to beat me every day. I was trained that that's what people do. To even, like, just to release their frustration. So when I go to a counselor and I say I need help, I have PTSD, and I have some real issues because of my upbringing and because of my abusive ex-husband, I have never gotten help from this. Except for Dr. Wolf, who put me on a medication. Which, as a physician myself, when I get on except for in Maryland when I'm a doctor, when I get a medication, it's because it's right for that time and I want to get to the root cause, if possible, but I want to palliate the symptoms. He palliated the symptoms and let me get a good night's sleep. Peace, guys. Definitely not trigger warning. I'm alive today and I'm about to be figuring out how I can, it might not be gold coins invested into some kind of stock market, but I'm going to use like my education, my skills, the books that are on our shelf, I'm going to use that to make it so that I don't fall back into homelessness. That I can get my land, and if anything, you have your land, you pay your taxes, you have your land, you go sit there and hope the cops don't run you off your own land depending on the zoning. Can I have an RV? Can I have a tent? Can I sleep in my car? What? Peace, guys. You guys hang in there. Public service announcement.